All right. Number 2 today. Here we go. So, as Martha said, I'm Kassin Laverty. I'm the founder and executive director at Interior Design Fair, otherwise known as IDF. We're a residential and commercial interior design firm, so mostly homes and offices. We're based in San Francisco. We opened our doors in February 2010. And at the time, it was just me in my studio apartment, and now we are 17 strong and hiring. A lot of this growth is due to our work in commercial spaces in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. And we are most well known for our work, as Martha said, at Airbnb, which is shown here. This is a new development. We just got recognized by Inc. magazine. We were #1 on the world's coolest offices list for 2015, which is pretty cool. Or at least our picture was first. I'm going to take that as #1. So while I'm not a productivity expert or an efficiency expert, I have had an insider's view on the office design boom, specifically in the Bay Area, and I'd love to share some of the insights that I've gained from these experiences with you guys today. So first off, I'm going to start with the basic assumption that I don't need to remind you how much time we all spend at the office and why office design is so important. It's a unique time right now. The book is kind of technically being written about office design as we speak, and the bar for office design has gone up considerably even in the last few years. A lot of you are probably familiar with websites like Pinterest and Houzz. There's also a bunch of websites just even in the last couple years now solely for office design, kind of eye candy inspiration and images, places like Office Lovin' shown here and Office Snapshots. There's also a ton of great work being published regarding the future of office design, what's working and not working, and what trends we might see for the future. My goal today is to give you a crash course in what these experts are saying and what I've heard and learned from being in the field, as well as to give you some specific insights into what I think makes a truly great office. So before we start, it's interesting to just take a look at how offices evolved in the latter half of the 20th century through where we are today. So way back, some of you history buffs may know, but apparently the first glass skyscrapers kind of emerged in roughly the 1930s. By the 50s, modernism was really the common language for the American office, with open floor plans and workplace layouts based on organizational hierarchy. There were often personal offices for executives and straight rows of desks. So I think of this as like the typical kind of classroom setup. By the 60s, an open office layout emerged out of Germany that's actually very similar to what's being embraced in offices today. Groupings were organized by one's department, and break areas and aesthetic features like plants helped visually break up a space. This layout was actually meant to facilitate collaboration and was revered for its flexibility and cost savings. So a man named Robert Probst, he criticized the open office of the 60s as a wasteland that, quote, saps vitality, blocks talent, and frustrates accomplishment. And thus, in the late 1970s, he introduced the cubicle. It was meant to promote autonomy and privacy. It was conceived as a symbol of egalitarianism at the time and was sort of a backlash against this big brother idea where you had executives looking out through their glass office at the workroom floor. However, given the economic recession that happened in the 70s and 80s, this quickly degraded into what we now know as like very ubiquitous cube farms. Then, in the 1990s, what happened? We got computers. They came into the workplace and officially started tying people to technology and, at the time, to their desks. The dot-com bubble of the late 90s spearheaded a backlash against cubicles, and brought back the open office. We went back to this model of teamwork and collaboration and took the concept of deterritorializing to a new extreme. People and spaces were interchangeable, they were all mixed together, and likewise the boundaries between work and play began to blur. And in this time, we got Google, which so far has been somewhat synonymous with office design for the digital age, which makes us think of beanbags. And I don't know about you, but it also makes me think of slides. So clearly a lot has happened in this most recent period where we've gone from cube farms to slides. And this is crucial because the Google model, or the Apple model, or Silicon Valley, or simply tech startups in general, they have significantly changed the way that we in the developed world work every day. So let's pause for a moment on this, because it's interesting to note where our modern ideals have come from. The current model emerged from Silicon Valley, where there were a lot of tech-savvy and creative people. Businesses could spring up overnight and scale extremely fast. Rapid growth, high risk and reward drove a sense of camaraderie. There was this feeling of shared pain and shared gain. And of course, these companies valued entrepreneurship, innovation, being scrappy, and thinking outside the box. And they fundamentally believed that people should work hard and have fun. And this is interesting because this is essentially a new value system compared to what the US had known until now. On the whole, work used to feel a little bit more slow and steady, and this new world is really based on being really intense, but also really fun. This completely changed the landscape of the modern workplace. People go to work now and expect more from it. It's not somewhere you go to churn out work, kind of punch the clock, and come home. Boundaries are much more malleable. Our work and personal identities are much more interconnected. It's the idea that work is everywhere and also that life is everywhere. So, fast forward. 5 easy ways to promote fun in the office by miscellaneous blogger. Here they are. Ping pong table. 2 scooters. 3 office bar. 4 yoga, and 5 toys. Law firms pile on posh amenities to build up business. This was actually just published by the Wall Street Journal in September of this year. New York firms are adding dining service and wine bars, and I love this part. Instead of taking your client to a fancy dinner, quote, pull out a tablecloth, grab some flatware, and sit down to eat in one of the firm's softly lit conference rooms. You may have also heard of this, but the mayor of New York really bought into the open space trend kind of early on and made the famous bullpen that you see here in New York City Hall. Also, more recently, the Facebook CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, put together the largest open floor plan in the world with the help of architect Frank Gehry, housing nearly 3,000 engineers. And then we see this. The dark side of open offices. This is similar to the 60s and 70s. There's also a litany of negative feedback surrounding open office plans, from distraction to health issues to productivity and focus, et cetera. And interestingly, the value system itself is actually starting to be challenged more and more, and I suspect we'll even see more of this in the future. So, where do we go from here? The good news is that a lot of good has come from all that we've tried since the 1990s. So here they are in short order, the 10 themes that myself and others have really seen emerge, aka Office Design in the Digital Age version 2.0. Number 1, buzz. Now that many people have the option of working from anywhere, the number 1 thing that a workplace provides us, essentially what convinces us to show up at the office, is the thing we call buzz. Activity, energy, co-working feel, that sort of coffee shop vibe. Number 2, flow. Flow is about good circulation, smart and easy wayfinding, and ways to get around. It's about balancing desks with collaborative spaces, mixing public and private. And it's also this cool concept, and probably not a new concept, but one that says that we should view an office through the arc of a day. So if you imagine kind of taking a time-lapse video of people running around the office on a daily or a weekly basis, and you kind of hit fast forward and watch them running around like ants in hyperspeed. You can watch where people usually go in the morning or after lunch or at 4 p.m. and really design the space to accommodate these patterns of behavior. Number 3, interactive. And I call this the oh hey factor. So great offices are thoughtfully designed to facilitate interaction, serendipitous meetings, engagement, and collaboration, and sort of this idea that you're walking down the hall and, oh hey, you run into someone you wouldn't normally see. It's also the idea that you have tons of tools at your fingertips, like, oh, I wish I had a whiteboard right now, and oh, hey, it's right there on the wall next to you. Number 4, refuge. If there's one thing we've learned about the open office idea, it's that people need a place to focus. In a study of 90,000 people from 155 companies, Gensler found that individual focus was the most important factor in an employee's effectiveness in the workplace. And they also found that focus was the activity that was least effectively supported by current office design. So having spaces that are specifically designed for quiet, for alone time, things like phone booths and libraries are very important. Number 5, so clearly offices of the future need to be connected. They need to be high tech. They should have a plug-and-play aspect where you can really plug in your laptop or your phone and recharge and work from anywhere. They need the capability for virtual meetings, cloud computing, connecting with prospective like job candidates or team members or full teams or full offices. Also, some companies even need more of a live-work aspect, and this probably applies mostly to companies that have engineers or are kind of project or launch-based, but they will often sequester themselves, like take over an entire meeting room or set of meeting rooms and move their entire operation into one space, and they need to subsist there for days at a time. Number 6. In the 21st century, we have clearly declared that it's important to us as human beings that our offices are healthy. We want, as workers, we want to be happy and we want to be comfortable. We also want to bring the outdoors in or move the indoors out to increase our connection to life and the outside world. Number 7, fun. Fun might mean amenities, like free lunch or ping pong tables, but it's also just the sense that we expect more from our workplace. Whether you're a law firm or a bank or a food delivery service, offices should be more design forward, more welcoming, and more playful, or at least just less stuffy. Number 8, communal. Communal might be within your own office community. It might be your local neighborhood, or it might be more global. But ultimately, it's this idea that there's a blurring of boundaries. It's saying that companies value integration, that they appreciate the sharing economy, they value education, and a more humanistic approach. Number 9, flexible. And great offices get really, really creative with this. Things are portable, interchangeable, modular, multi-purpose. Furniture and spaces can be one thing to one group at one time and then completely transformed by another group for an entirely different purpose. Even desks or workstations can work like a hotel so that employees can reserve and share space as needed. And finally, number 10, I love this concept that an office is always evolving. You fellow designers know this to be true, that in the kind of the practical realm of the real world, a great design is never really done. We hope to give our clients spaces that are constantly evolving as their company grows, and the designer's role is really more to be a facilitator and catalyst of other good work. All right, so great. You guys got it so far? We're rolling? All right, so buzz, flow, interactive, refuge, connected, healthy, fun, communal, flexible, evolving. Check. All right. So here is Joe, designer. He's going about his day, being very creative. And the phone rings. I love this. Hi, I'm the office manager of Company X. We need your help with our office design. We want it to look like Sight Glass Coffee. We have 30 people, but should be at 120 by the end of the year. I just started my job 2 months ago. Our lease is only 18 months, but we'll probably grow out of it before then. We have a logo, but we're actually in the middle of changing it. Our CEO is incredibly busy, so I'll be handling everything for him. But just FYI, he has really strong opinions on the office design. Can you tell me how much it's gonna cost? Oh, and we're moving in 2 weeks. So you guys can probably relate to this one. No joke, I get this call at least a few times a month. So I feel personally that the real question is, how do you make an office amazing that incorporates all the elements we know to be important without the space feeling cookie cutter or contrived? So the intangibles. My business advisor likes to call this the special sauce. The best office designs are by companies who have a really good sense of who they are, what makes them different, and what mark they want to make on the world. Everything else is just vanilla. But how do you get there when all your client tells you is, I love Sight Glass Coffee, which you guys should totally look up because it's a really cool place. So at Interior Design Fair, we end up asking them these questions. Number one, who works here and what do you guys do? What age range are the employees? Are they male or female? Do they wear suits or jeans to work? Are they introverts or extroverts? Are they quiet or loud? Does all of this vary by team or by department? And then make sure you're designing directly to these folks as part of the office design. Number two, why do people choose to work here? Do they work here for the prestige? Because they're surrounded by the smartest people? Because they want to bounce ideas off others and work collaboratively? Is the founder a passionate leader? Are there incredible training or education opportunities? Do they have the chance to travel? Is the company known for diversity, et cetera, et cetera? This is a great question to think about, and then make sure that you're playing up these strengths as part of the design. Number three, what makes you different from your competitors? For example, are you a budget brand or a luxury brand? Do you have a one-size-fits-all or a personalized approach? Are you technically superior, or do you have impeccable service? And ultimately, the things you put in your office, seems obvious, but the things you put in your office should match the key tenets of your brand. And for those of you who don't know, that's the Uber office and the Lyft office. Do you guys have those apps here? Yep, guessing you do. All right, so number four, what are your company's personality traits? This is another way of getting at your office culture, or said by a great culture speaker and scholar, Damien Madre, culture you can think of as a company's collective identity. So are you, as a company, friendly or provocative, fun or serious, approachable or edgy, ego-driven or humble, laid back or intense? Your interior space ultimately should match this vibe. Number 5, what do you do to celebrate achievements? And this is one that a lot of companies don't think about, but it picks up on a lot of things about your culture, about your values, and even practical considerations regarding what you might need in your space. So, do you have special traditions regarding onboarding and offboarding? Do you post sales statistics? Do you have a sales gong or bell of some sort? Do you have physical or symbolic awards for employees? Do you have an employee wall of some sort? How do you celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and other important individual and company milestones? It's important to share these wins as a company, as it's a huge part of your identity, your passion, and the day-to-day experience of the people who work with you. Number 6, what is your team most proud of? So, said another way, what do you want the world to know about you? For example, there's a company called Zoosk. Does anyone know Zoosk? It's not pictured here, but it's an online dating site. And they have over 35 million members. It's the #1 dating site out there. They're available in over 80 countries and translated into 25 languages, and they have over 5 million messages sent daily. So really think about how you'd like to communicate these wins through your office design. And finally, number 7, what mark do you want to make on the world? For example, our client 23andMe in Mountain View provides an in-home kit that will help map a customer's DNA. And their goal is ultimately to help people like you and me take control of our own health. Maybe some of you want to promote small business in Oregon, or you have a much more ambitious goal like Facebook or Google, and you want to increase access to the internet around the world. But ultimately, it's more about your product or your service or your mission. It's about your impact and your legacy. So in other words, get a really good sense of people, motivation, brand, culture, passion, pride, and impact. And then do your best to integrate this into the everyday at work. It's not about perfection. It's about creating a smart and authentic workplace, with or without a slide. That's it.